Okay, welcome to another Bible study. Alright, now first let me see, make sure. Okay, keep Brian Saul in prayer. He's in the hospital. Yeah, his heart was beating irregular and it caused him to like almost pass out and stuff like that. They checked it out and they said he has AFib. Yeah, so they're working on that. They're trying to use medication to get him stabilized. And hopefully if he gets stabilized, then he can come home tomorrow. So we're praying about that. I think that's basically it for all the announcements. No, before I even pray, the Bible study that I'm about to do was not the Bible study I intended to do. I had a Bible study already kind of half planned. Remember when I told you I did that class that helped me do movies and pictures and all that, and I can teach from it? But I have this one picture that I've been dying to teach a Bible study from. I saw it at a friend's house and I said, could I borrow this picture? I've been sitting on it for a year. And I still haven't done the Bible study on it yet. But when I looked at it, I said to myself, probably I should tell them I do this first, because the picture is a little bit suggestive in many areas. But it's a nice picture. It has angels on it. Whether the angels or not, let's say they're shirtless. But don't worry, it's a good, I think it's going to be a great Bible study and stuff. So I said, let me give you guys prior warning before you guys see the picture. I said, what the heck is Pastor thinking? But so next week, we're going to do the Bible study on that picture. And I'm going to ask everybody when they look at it to tell me their opinion, what they think they got from the picture. And that's supposed to be fun before I tell you all the different themes I got out of that Bible study picture. That's supposed to be fun. All right. So that's the warning.
Here's the problem.
All right. Oh, you're propping up the foot. All right. Well, let us open in a word of prayer. Dear God, we just want to thank you and praise you for allowing us to be here. We want to remember Brian, dear God, in the hospital. We ask, dear God, that the medication may just get his AFib under control and that he'll be home with his family by tomorrow or the latest this coming weekend. We thank you and we praise you now. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. Okay, today's Bible study, as I said, this was not the one I had planned, but it's an okay one. Now, this week's Bible study is called Trust the Process. Now, let me tell you something about trusting the process of God. Is that I want you guys to look at it today from either the perspective of you going through the process, or you are standing on the outside and somebody else is going through the process. And so I don't want you to think that you must be the one going through it, but you might be the one standing on the outside watching your grandchildren, your children, or a loved one go through it. But you need to trust God while He's doing His process. And it doesn't mean the process is going to be easy. Now, when I look at this particular verse, this was the only verse that I could come up with at the time that kind of sparked the interest but explained everything that I'm going to say today. But let me tell you something. I'm going to read it now, and it's going to be so confusing you're going to wonder why I put this verse up. So let's read it. Habakkuk 2 verse 3. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak, and it will not lie, though it tarries. Wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. What the heck is that saying, man? It's crazy. I don't get what that's saying. It's speaking or it's not speaking or whatever. It's just crazy. That's why your brilliant pastor is smart. He read it from the amplified version so that he can explain it. So, see, I'm not all that smart. Here comes my friend Connie. Yay!
You should have let me sneak in.
Oh man, I started to worry about you. I was wondering if you were okay.
I'm not used to this time change. I was in the
See,
yard,
I told you
in the
that
yard
was.
picking up sticks and branches and.
And then afterwards, the time passed. That's what I said to Anna. I said, I bet you it's the time change.
Yeah, when I get through.
But you can't come around here and come right beside Anna.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Ah.
Yeah. Don't worry, I'll wait on you. you can't help her with that one because I don't have any more left. I didn't
I don't
print
know.
it.
I don't need it.
Oh, you don't need any? Oh, good. No, she was just going to share with you.
No, I don't need it.
Okay. So, trust the process. So, when we look at this one here, in Habakkuk 2 verse 3 now, we look at the Amplified version. Look how easy it explains everything. It says, for the vision is yet for the appointed time. What is the appointed time? In the future. That means something is going to happen in the person's life in the future. And then it continues to say, it hurries towards the goal of what? Fulfillment. So there's going to be an end time that this thing is fulfilled. Whatever God is processing in them and teaching them what it's all about, there is a goal of fulfillment. And guess what? Whoever is doing it is God, ain't going to fail. They're going to learn something from it. Even though it delays, in other words, you know when we're going through God's process, we're like, I can't wait for this to be over. Oh man, can't this be over? Especially when it's a tough time. Our timing is not God's timing. So even though it looks like it's delayed, it says wait patiently for it. What are we waiting for? The fulfillment. So wait patiently for it because it will certainly come because it's God doing it and it will not delay. So trust the process. Some persons are going to go through the process and you got to learn to trust God while He's doing His process. Now the person I use to back up this trusting the process is going to be Joseph because he went through a process. Lord have mercy. So we're going to use the story of his life, and everybody knew the story of Joseph. His process wasn't easy. He went from slave, bad from his brother's slavery. Then he went to jail. That ain't good. I ain't telling anybody I want to live that process now, but he went through a rough process. Now, first thing I want you to see also is that when you're doing and living for God, there's something called the favor of God will be upon you. Now, I ain't talking about when somebody resembles somebody. Not that favor. I'm talking about God's hand upon your life while you're going through the process. If you're living for God, you will see favor from Him. And we need to understand God's favor is something wonderful upon our lives. Now, some people might be like, what's this favor all about? So, of course, I got the dictionary and I looked on it. And favor means approval, support, or liking for someone or something. But hold on. Second meaning, favor also means an act of kindness beyond what is due or usual. Let me give you something more. When we put it together with God, it means you have God's approval or support, and because of this act of kindness, you have God's favor and support, and because of this, an act of kindness beyond what is due usually happens for you. So what's going to happen is God says, yep, Rochelle, she living for me. Yep, I like that. And He makes sure certain things happen for her because God's favor is upon her life. I can tell you, it happens to me a lot. Especially because I'm a pastor. I can walk into some place and I'm walking in and I'm like, I don't know which way to go. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Oh, is this the line? And I'm standing there and somebody say, Pastor! I'm like, yes. They say, what are you doing? Well, I'm here to do such a, oh, don't worry, sit right there. And come back and they give me my document, everything going. I'm like, bye-bye. God's favor. You get what I'm saying? So sometimes an act of kindness just continues to come on you, all because you are in God's will. So that's the favor of God. Now, I need to be honest about this thing. Not because you have God's favor, it means your life will go easy. Because many people preach this gospel now and they're on TV and they say, oh, I'm highly blessed and highly favored and God's favor is upon me. And they teach and make it seem like if God's favor is upon you, then nothing's going to go wrong in your life. Let me tell you this. If God's favor is upon you, things can still go wrong in your life. And so, if you follow what they say and you believe that God's favor has to be going good for everything to be going good, then that means people like Joseph, God's favor left him. But God's favor never left him, even though things were going crappy in his life. Can you believe that? God's favor means that whatever or whichever situation you are facing, you will still see God's hand at work. It doesn't mean it's going to change the situation you're in or change the process that you're going through. It just means God's hand is still in the process guiding you through it. In other words, like I told somebody this, God didn't plan the evil for you, but he knows the evil is coming. Like Joseph's brothers. God didn't plan for him to become a slave. That was his brother's plan. But God already knew he was going to become a slave. So he made favor happen in the house of Pharaoh. Potiphar, sorry. He didn't plan for him to go to jail, but he knew he was going to jail. So he made favor happen for him while he was in the jail. So I'm saying for you, whatever situation or whichever situation, you will still see God's hand at work. So when they tell you, oh, you're having a bad day, God's favor has left you, just tell them, thank you, okay, I don't need your help with that one. Because that's not true. His favor appears unexpected and even in some of the darkest moments that sometimes you don't think it's his doing. Sometimes some things happen and because you're so upset you don't realize it's God's favor. You know, you're there, broken down on the road, car won't start, and everybody's like, zoom, zoom, and you're there, and you don't know what to do, and you just see a light, just an indicator light, just tick, 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 and pull off on the side and say, are you okay? And you're like, no, and you're like, oh, well, let me see if I can help you. And you're like, well, do you have this and this battery lying around in your car? Because my car, and the person, I do. I put one in the car, and you're like, how did this happen? You know, unexpected, and sometimes it's in your darkest times, and you don't even think it was God's doing. You forgot everything about it, but that's God's favor always on you. And then sometimes it's something even darker than that, and just one little slither of light comes in, and you're like, yeah, I'm so glad that happened, but I'm still stuck in the situation. God's favor is helping you in your darkest moments, right? But we need to remember this. Whatever the process is, whatever we're going through, always remember, in God's process, God knows what He is doing. So we're going to look at people going through the process, and always remember, God knows what He's doing. Now, first thing we need to understand, when we're doing God's will, it has standards. I know everybody likes standards. Back in the days when we were younger, you know, and stuff, and people were standing for what they say, oh, I like that person, he has standard. Oh, I like that person, they have standard. But nowadays, somebody has standard, they say, you're too holy. Yeah, they say you're too holy. And you're like, I can't talk to Rochelle, or I can't talk to Carl. All they talk about is God. I don't want to talk to them. Their pastor preach too much about God. I need a pastor that's down to earth. And so everybody don't like nothing that has standards these days. They want
don't know you.
They want everybody to set their own standards. And so that's not it. As a child of God, you have standards, and you have to stick by your standards, right? One of the things I remember about standards is because of what society has put in us now, Christians get so afraid to stand up against things that are good. I remember when I was in Maryland and they came up with the Nucha saying bathroom. You know, when all the kids can say, I want to be a girl, so call me a girl. No, I want to be a boy, so call me a boy. And we're like, hey, I can't stop you from doing that. But then they sent out a thing in the school that the boys, if they want to be girls, they can now go in the girls' bathroom. If the girls, they want to be boys, they can go in the boys' bathroom. I'm like, no, you're not going to tell me that. So my pastor and a couple of us, we stood up against that. And we said, don't tell us that. If you want to be called a boy because you're a boy, fine. We can't stop that. You want to be called a girl and you're a boy, fine. We don't care what you want to do there. But don't tell my kids now that have been grown all these years and how I grow them that anybody can use any badge. We know that this kid not a pervert. And he just want to come over. I want to be a girl. And then he's like, ooh, yes. Ooh. How we know? You can't know. So we stood up against that. I said, make a bathroom for them. Now they can have their own neutral gender bathroom. They can go in there and do what they want because that's their problem. We can't solve that. So we need to remember we have standards as Christians and don't just accept anything that comes our way. Now, I'm not saying that people are going to like us for our standards, but we still need to set them. Right? Now, when we look at Joseph here, he was 17 years old. He was the second to last son. And he had a baby son. They kept him at home. And he was 17 out with his brothers. Some of his brothers could actually like be his dad, man. That's how young he was compared to them. And they sent him out with his brothers to, start looking after the flock and all of that. But listen to this. It says, Joseph, being 17-year-old, was feeding the flock with his brothers. And the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah. Those are the other two wives that, Jacob had. And so he had brothers with them. And he says, those are his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father. Now they're going to definitely hate him. Joseph had standards, but nobody likes a tattletale. Oh, you went home and told daddy about us. And you're like, oh, I hate this boy. Goody two shoes. We're going to get rid of him. So Joseph had standards from that time. And God knew he had standards. And God knew he was going to go through a process. And God started to put his favor on him. And the more God started to put his favor on him, the more his brothers hated him. But guess what? Even though his brothers were treating him awful, the dad still favored him. And you all know the story, what happened. He got the coat of many colors. Every time I look at this thing and I said to myself, they were going to kill him over a coat? That's dumb. It's like somebody say, they bought a Calvin Klein coat and I'm like, oh, I hate them for that coat. I'm going to kill them for it. This is basically the same thing. His dad gave him a coat of many colors and they were so upset over that. They were willing to kill him over it. Over clothes.
But they didn't get it.
No, they didn't get to do it, but they wanted to do it.
No, but I mean, they didn't get a coat.
No, they didn't get one.
They were jealous.
They were jealous. But would you be jealous to kill someone over a coat?
No.
That's what I'm saying. It's a coat, for crying out loud. But God's favor kept on him that even his father had to favor him because they saw that anything Joseph did, his hands was blessed by it. And so they knew that. So even though they didn't like him, they were upset because they saw that God's favor was on him. And then they saw that his father's favor was on him. And they're like, oh, let's get rid of this guy. So God started to show Joseph his destiny. Can you imagine that? God started to show Joseph his destiny. Now, the thing about this, he did not show Joseph how he was getting there. Right? And that's the beautiful thing. I always tell persons, sometimes God can't show us how we're getting there when we're going through the process. Because if he shows us everything, then we ain't going to follow the process. We ain't going to trust the process. I told everybody this. When he told me to go to the United States of America, to go to Bible college, I said, yes, God. No, he didn't tell me how I was going to get there, and I was going to be there 7 years without my family. Because if I knew that before, I'd be like, let's talk about this again. That's what I would have said. Let's talk about this, God. What you saying, 7 years? He just gave Joseph this, a snapshot of the end. He told me that I was going to graduate. He told me that, And so I thought, he gave me a little snapshot too that, one day I'll be at a church with him. Tell me I'm going to be no pastor though. But I got a little snapshot of the end. So I knew I was to go to Bible college. And I know he was going to let me go to a church. In my mind, I'll be a youth pastor for the next 20 years. And that didn't happen. But he gave me a snapshot of my destiny. He gave Joseph a snapshot of his destiny. And we got to just trust God in the process. No, when I was going through the process, I had to trust God because things weren't so pretty. Joseph was going through his process. Eventually, he had to trust God. Even though it looked dark and it looked terrible, he still had to trust God. Right? Now, one thing, if we are the ones going through the process, we must always trust God. But this is the one I was pointing out a lot to persons this morning. If we're on the outside watching God process someone, don't be jealous, don't be hesitant, Ask God to use you to help them get where He wants them. So sometimes listen, Joseph was obedient. He was good. But not all the times the kids are good. Not all the time the kids are obedient. Not all the time the kids listen. Let's be realistic. Or the grandkids or whatever. And you see God talking to them. And you're over this side like, Lord, they ain't getting it. And you're looking at them and say, Lord, they ain't getting it. So I keep looking at it sometimes and saying, Lord, they ain't getting it. And they want to do it their way. But sometimes, I told somebody this morning, when you see your kids do some crazy things or your grandkids, you feel like to say to God, God, just give me a second. I want to talk to them. Are you dumb? You just want to choke the life out of them. I said, why did you make that decision? You get what I'm saying? You don't want to kill them because you love them. They're your kids, but you want to just grab them by the throat and say, are you dumb? And shake some sense into them. But that's what it is. But we need to remember we are God's, mouthpiece sometimes here to guide our kids, to guide our grandkids and our loved ones. And many times they're going through the process and things keep happening to them over and over again because they keep making the same decisions, the same dumb decisions, and they're not learning. We can't give up on them. No matter what happens to them, we can't give up. We have to what? Trust the process. So we got to keep praying for them. We got to keep guiding them. We got to keep on with them. Even though they're doing some dumb things over and over again, we got to trust the process. Because we grew them up in church. You get what I'm saying? So we have to trust the process. Now, when we think of God showing Joseph his destiny, I like to let people understand what sheaves are, because many times the Bible talks about the sheaves bowing down to his sheaves. I just decided to put this picture in so you could know what sheaves are, because sometimes people are like, what the heck is a sheave? Now the sheave is actually the wheat. Yeah, you know that, Anna. You farm lady. The sheave is like all the wheat tied up in stacks like that. So now you know what sheaves are. So everybody in farm country should know this. This is what a sheave is. It's just the thing tied up here. And so this is the wheat. And so that's when they tied up there. But what Joseph saw in his dream was something more looking like this. It was like his sheaf over there and their sheaves bowing down to him. Or him here with his sheaf and all the sheaves bowing down to him. So his brother's like, oh, you're saying what I bundled up is going to bow down to your bundle? Oh, okay. Okay, I hear you. Nothing wrong with that. I hate him. The brothers just couldn't take him because God was giving him a glimpse of his destiny. And they hated that. And God continued to still give him, confirming Joseph's destiny and giving him a glimpse. Remember, he just started the process yet. All he think right now, he's having a little bad family strife. He ain't starting nowhere in the process yet. This is just the beginning. And so that's why God is giving him a confirmation of what should happen in the long run. Now when he got this dream of the sun and the moon and all those things bowing down to him, I can tell you, this one even shook Daddy. Because Daddy said, boy, what are you saying? I'm going to bow down to you. Come on, boy. Watch your mouth now. Be careful. You're going overboard with this dream thing. But a man like Jacob, who had dreams and wrestled with an angel and saw the ladder ascending and descending and all of that. This is the same man. No, God was talking to his son in a dream and got jealous of God speaking to his son. That's why I said sometimes when you know God is talking to your kids or something great is planned for them, don't get jealous. I've seen parents get jealous of their own children. I've seen ministers ask kids to leave their church because it look like they're going to be a better preacher than them or all of that. Look at me. Only to find out my pastor didn't like me was the fact that he thought I was coming over to take the church. And if he knew what God was saying and he got on the program, then he would have been in such good... He could have been the one preaching at my installation service. But he thought I was coming back to take over church when that wasn't on God's program. So we shouldn't try to stand in God's way. We should try to help these younger ones or loved ones or whoever it is to start trusting God's process. And if it's us the one that God is talking to, trust the process. Right? Now, if we are the more mature ones in Christ, let us act more mature. and help the ones that need help. Now, not everyone will like that God's favor is upon you. We talked about that. And evil might plan to do evil against you. Right? Now, this guy here, he puts this on this wall like it's a graffiti on the wall. But when you look at it, it says, love your enemies, do good to those who, hate you, bless those who curse you, and pray for those who mistreat you. And then he says, sign Jesus, right there at the bottom. So people can understand, even when your enemies are doing terrible against you, even when they plan evil for you, you're not supposed to do it. Now, many times we teach our children or our grandchildren, when the world swings at you, swing back. That's what we teach them. But what we really supposed to teach them, when the world swings at you, put up your defense and then ask God to swing back for you. That's what we really should teach them. But many times we ourselves get it all. They're out there and they're working. And they're like, we're all working on the project, Daddy. I solved everything. And then when I solved it, the other one went up to the boss and said, this is the answer to the problem. And he says, wonderful. You're the smartest of the lot. You get the promotion. Stole the person's, answer and all of that. And you're like, I feel like I couldn't. No, don't smack him over. Let him go. He might get that promotion now, but there's a process. And when God promotes you, he might be answering to you. Even his boss might be answering to you. You never know. Trust the process. Right?
Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord.
You're right. That's what the scripture says.
Yeah.
But this is the one that gets us most of the time. Even when you are in the pit, trust God. I know many persons say, yeah, I hear you, Pastor, but the pit dangerous, the pit dark, the pit damp, the pit is terrible. It might have snakes down there. Lord have mercy, just thinking about it. I turn Spider-Man eventually and come out of that pit. We got to trust in God. So even when you look, right, I was saying this morning to somebody, let's be realistic now. What if the pit is a lockup? I'm talking about your kids now, or your grandkids. I've seen persons say, well, I did all I can do for this grandkid. He done now go do something stupid and the cops locked him up. I can't do no, I'm done. I wash my hands, that's it. Exactly, you don't wash your hands. You're a child of God. You're supposed to go back, trust God in the process. What if this is their breaking point? What if this is the point that's going to turn them around because they're not the lowest point in their life and they're in the lockup? And they're going to need someone when they come out of the lockup to help them along the way. You get what I'm saying to you? But we got to trust God that they're learning from this experience. Now, as I said, Joseph was a cut above the rest because I don't know how he felt when, he was being taken out to the pit. And he's like, oh, I'm going to tell Daddy on you. I'm going to tell Daddy on you. And they're like, no, you ain't. And they're like, what you mean? But we're selling you. What do you mean you're selling me? Oh, you can't sell me. I'm your brother. Yep, I'll take $50. And they sold him into slavery. So even when you are in the pit and you're a child of God, you might have an illness where the doctor said, that's it. Don't trust God, because if God want to heal, I've seen God heal every cancer there is where there is no trace of it. But you don't know what God is going to do with someone that acts in faith. He might want you to do something. And so I've seen it. I keep on telling you about that one time when God told me to pray for that one person that they brought in hospice for and everything and all of that. I lost count now. It's been over a year. He's still alive. The hospice just moved out. The kids just come and take turns to stay with him. And he's still alive. I don't know why God told me to tell them that, but I did that and I prayed for them. And when he goes to the doctor now, he says, he ain't no worse, he ain't no better, but he's still alive. How is that possible? So he ain't no worse, he ain't no better, he eating, he talking and everything, but he should have been dead from they said he couldn't live longer than the end of the month. I don't even remember which month that is now. I'm telling you, even when you're in the pit, trust God, right? God's process is not always easy. So sometimes you might not be in a pit. You might feel restricted. You might feel you're in shackles, you're in chains, and you don't know which way out or which way to turn. but you still gotta trust God. Especially when the person you're trying to help is not learning. And you're like, I can't do anything more. I'm done. I can't do anything more. Well, start praying a little harder. Don't give up on them. Don't give up on the grandchild. Don't give up on the child. Don't give up on the niece, the nephew, the son, the daughter, whoever it is. Don't give up on yourself. Because the process is not always easy. Now, this is the thing. What happens when evil situations come your way? You still have to trust the process. But let me tell you something about Joseph, what was happening. Evil situation came his way and it went all the same. But no matter what he was going through, God's favor was still upon him. Because look at this now. He was sold into slavery. I know some people are saying, so what's the smell about that, Pastor? He was sold into slavery. That's not something to talk about. He's in slavery. Well, remember I told you in your darkest hour, sometimes God does something for you. And you might not realize it, but it's still God's favor. I want to show you this scripture here. Look in Genesis 39, verse 2 and 4. It says, the Lord was with Joseph. He a slave. The Lord was still with him. And he was a successful man. Successful? He's a successful slave? I don't want that job. But he was a successful slave. Right? And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. Listen to this. And his master saw the Lord was with him. Listen, the Egyptians had tons of gods that they worship. But this man saw that, hey, I don't know which God that man worshiping, but his God is with him. And so because of this, God's favor was on Joseph. It caused his master to favor him. Look at it. And it says his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand. Oh man, everything this man touched turns to gold. He's King Midas. So Joseph found favor in his sight. God was with him. The favor rolled down and was in his sight. Now listen to this. And it says, and he served him. Then he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had he put under his authority. No, he chief slave. I never told you it was going to change the situation. But you still see God's hand at work, and his favor is there. That's when you can start saying to persons, trust God, because you see God working. But I wanted that promotion. Yeah, but you got this one. Because you're trying to go that way to go up. And God keeps on saying, go this way. So you got a lateral move over here. And you're thinking this is not the way to go. But over here has 10 people trying to get to that one position. And when you go over here, you work for a year, and then you are here, and the position you were trying to get is here. You're just in a different department. You get what I'm saying? I'm not saying going to change your situation, but you're going to see God's hand on you, because God's favor never leave you. Right? He was still living a godly life. That's his problem. He was still living, and that's sad to say, he still lived a godly life. Even though problems were coming, he kept living a godly life. He's now a chief slave. I don't know if that's anything to boast on. But he's a chief slave, and he was trusting God. Now some people are thinking, well, Pastor, what about if you leave from one bad situation to a worse situation? What do you have to tell me now? Well, thank you. That's why I choose Joseph. Because Joseph left from a bad situation to a worse situation. His standards got him in trouble. He wanted to be a godly man, and Potiphar's wife was looking at him and said, Joseph, you look good in that toga. And she's like, come here, boy. I got something for you. And he came over and he's like, yes, ma'am. And she's like, come right here, sit on the... He's like, that can't happen. And she's like, let me hold on that toga for a second. And he's like, keep the toga, baby. Woohoo! And he ran. Because he can't afford to mess up. So he let go and he kept trusting God. But guess what? His good standards got him into trouble. And soon he got into a worse situation because she lied on him. And now he's in prison. And so what are you telling me, Pastor? I'm going to get in prison. I didn't say that. I'm just saying trust the process. Because now that he's in prison and things are worse for him, God's favor still came on him. And this is the thing. No matter what our situation is, we need to remember who our help comes from. Our help doesn't come from man. Our help comes from a real and living God. And we need to remember that, no matter what we're going through. You know, I've always told persons many times when situation happens and I say God was able. And I heard some people say, well, I don't believe that God can help me. I don't believe. You know, many times I say to people, I challenge you right now. Let's put this situation to God. And if God fails you or fails us, then I will never mention God again. You gonna put that situation like that to God? Hey, ain't gonna fail. Never once when I bet on God have I lost. Always won. And so I know where my help comes from. We should know where our help comes from. It comes from the Lord. So even though Joseph's situation got worse, he kept trusting God. We need to understand that Joseph tried a little bit too. He helped some other persons. He interpreted dreams and he said, just remember me. When you go before the king, remember me. Of course, what man does, they forget us. You help them today, they forget you tomorrow. That's how it is, right? But Joseph knew his help was coming from the Lord. And so even though man forgot him, he was favored in the prison. And what happened after that? Soon he was chief prisoner. He got the keys to release people in the prison. Ain't that something? So he now chief prisoner because his help comes from the Lord. And because the favor was on him, the favor went all the way to the top, to the highest person that was in Egypt. Who could have given Pharaoh that dream that Pharaoh would be like, I don't know, I see 7 cows, 7 fat cows and 7 slim cows, and the slim cows ate up the fat cows. What's going on here? I don't get this. What's going on? This is crazy. I don't understand this dream. And nobody else could interpret the dream. But the favor of God was on Joseph, that finally somebody said, I remember a man. And they sent for him. And this is where we pick up right here now. Now listen to what Pharaoh said. Listen to this. That's why I said trust the process. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the Spirit of God? This is the second time somebody's saying this. These people don't believe in our God, These people have their own gods that they worship. But every time Joseph comes in front of them, they see our God at work, because our God never stops working. He's the real and true God. So he trusts the process, and the process took him years, because some people are harder to learn. I'm not saying Joseph was one of them, but some people are a bit stubborn. So you might say, well, Pastor, I got a son, he got in trouble. When he was 17, he got in trouble. When he was 20, you still got to trust the process. Some of them ain't going to learn until they're 50. Some of them ain't going to learn until they're 30. Some of them ain't going to learn until you leave this earth, and then they start listening to what you have said. So do all you can do to help them. So you see what happens here now. Joseph trusts God, and he trusts the process. And look what happened. Process complete. It says, and Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I've set you over all the land of Egypt. When he was riding in his chariot, people ran before him and said, bow down, bow down, bow down. Can you believe that? This is the man. I don't know how Potiphar's wife, I always said I'd love to be a fly on the wall when he walked into that house, because he must have gone back to Potiphar's wife and knocked on the door. Hi. Oh, please. I didn't mean this. I didn't mean to tell a lie on you. I'm sorry. Can you? This man has the authority to off with your head now or put you in jail. But you see what Joseph had learned from his process. He had learned forgiveness. He had learned patience. He had learned how to deal with other persons who had done evil against him. All that was practice. Coming for what? His brothers. You see, when God works on us and we go through the process, it's for a reason. And the reason is to help other persons, or so we can use what we have learned. And so many people don't understand that. That's why we have to trust God in the process. When God reveals the end result, which is your destiny, right? Because God arranged the destiny and you have gone through the process. Walk into your destiny. Please don't waste it. So God taught Joseph all these things that he went through all these years. And when his brothers came, probably I would have failed that one. But when his brothers came, no, I wouldn't have failed it. No, let me not say it. I would walk into my destiny. When his brothers came, look at that. His brothers came. He actually did not say off with their heads. Eventually, he led them and he cried and he hugged them. And eventually he carried all his family in Egypt so he could take care of them. Can you believe that? When his dad died, his brothers were still so scared of him in the ending of Genesis that they said, now that daddy is there, he gonna kill us. That's what Genesis was ending up with. And Joseph said to them, you guys meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. Don't worry about it. You'll be taken care of. Look at that. It's from this same set of persons that the children of Israel came from, just to let you know. When his family moved up to Egypt, it was about 70 of them. When they were leaving Egypt, it was about 1 million. I don't know what them 70 bunny rabbits were doing. But yeah.
Where they all come from, they keep shooting.
I don't know, but I'm telling you, that's what was
I mean, they
happening.
kill them and then the next.
So I'm telling you, walk into your destiny. Now to wrap everything up, I'm doing good on time. We need to understand that God can use things looking like detours to process us, to get us to our destiny. Because many times, as I said, evil was already planned for us. And even though evil is planned for us, God is still going to take us down the path and process us so that we can do this. Or the person that's going through it. Sometimes it's an unfinished path and we're like, I ain't going down there, God. I know I ain't going down there. But you got to go down there because there's something for you to learn. Sometimes it's some rough, rocky terrain, a steep climb. And like, God, I ain't going up there. But God says, go, because there's something for you to learn. And sometimes it's some path that looks unsafe. God, if I step through that thing, I'm going to go all the way under. God says, go, because I'm going to teach you something. We have to remember to trust the process. Whether it's for us, or whether it's for a loved one or a family member, don't give up on them. Trust the process. And to top it off, I want to give you this. Anybody knows what that is? Good! Usually nobody gets it on the first shot. But then I start giving you clues and everybody gets it. Now women want it and men have to buy it because they want to flash their pretty fingers. Diamonds. These are uncut diamonds. When they find the diamonds, this is what they find in the stone. Don't give no woman this in no stone right now. She's going to be like, boy, go buy a real one. She probably throw it away and don't know what it is. I always tell persons, don't tell me you want cheese but don't expect the milk. The milk comes before the cheese. It goes through a process. You want diamonds? It goes through a process. We need to understand before we go through the process, this is what we are. And then when God is finished with us, then we look like the finished product. You can't get to this unless you are that. And I tell people that. So don't try to get to this and you don't want no processing. You can't just say, put this over here and that. You're going to be like, I don't want that. I want a shiny one. So if we want to become God's greatest gems, we got to trust God's process. And that's Bible study for tonight.